Hi, I'm Fire. And every once in a while, my friend Jack and I get bored of playing video games the normal way and decide instead to play them the stupid way. AKA, we make up a dumb challenge to
add a little bit of spice
to life. With all the Starfield hype going around recently, I've been really itching to replay a Bethesda game, and after some brainstorming, Jack and I decided I should replay Fallout 4. Mostly because if I replay Skyrim right now, I'll cry about the fact that the sequel still isn't coming out for another 5 years. Anyways, when we were racking our brains about what I should do in Fallout, it occurred to me that I hadn't really explored much of the game's chem and addiction system, as I spent most of my first playthrough being a little goody two-shoes for Preston and the Minutemen, and not really living up to my full potential as a chemmed up beast. But why only dip into the world of chems when I could go all out? So my task was set. I would try to beat Fallout 4 while addicted to every chem in the game. Given how plentiful chems are in the world of Fallout, and the buffs they give you with each encounter, I was ready for more of an experience than a challenge. I mean, really, how hard could it be? Booting up a fresh save, the first step to becoming a chem addict was, of course, looking the part. I went with a female character, because of course I did, and did my best to make her look as haggard and really messed up as possible. Getting addicted to chems actually already has that effect on the character, but I wanted to get a head start, like my character had already been having issues with addiction well before the bomb dropped. With that in mind, as soon as I got out of character creation, I went straight for the nearest addictive substances, only to find that I couldn't interact with any of them. Damn you, tutorial! Speaking of tutorial, it was only a matter of time before Mr. Vault Tech showed up at my door, and I got to properly build my character. My idea was to go for a melee build, since I knew that the chems I was already familiar with, like Buff Out and Jet, would give me a huge leg up with a strength build. Now all that's left is to choose a name. Let's go with Maddie. Get it? Maddie, like Addie? Like Adderall? Cause she does drugs! Anyways, after that, some bomb stuff happened, someone took my son, blah blah blah. Next thing I knew, I was running around in a vault 200 years sober and in desperate need to fix that. Unfortunately, the game doesn't put many chems in front of you to begin with, and any I did find weren't usable. The fact that there's no cigarette addiction in this game, despite there being packs literally everywhere, is the most ridiculous thing to me, especially given how big of a problem nicotine addictions are IRL. Anyways, I eventually managed to get my hands on some chems as I made my way out of the vault and into Concord. And they made the first fight much, much easier. Because the thing about chems is in small doses, they're designed to make the game way easier. And, lo and behold, they do. It's only when you fuck around and get addicted that you deal with the consequences. Just like in real life. On that note, at this point in my playthrough, I wasn't actually intending to do an all-addiction run. My original plan was actually that I was going to do a permanently chemmed playthrough, meaning that there wouldn't be a single point of gameplay where I wasn't on some kind of chem. With that in mind, once I started getting level up points, I actually ended up putting levels into chem resistance to make it easier for my character to take more drugs without consequences. Yeah, I get it was a dumb idea for the eventual pivot. Let's move on. Settling into my life in the wasteland, I began doing some of Preston's chores and exploring a few other systems I didn't get into in my first playthrough of the game, like cooking. All the while, I slammed every drug I could find into my mouth. It was at this point that I picked up my very first addiction. Buff Out. Honestly, I was expecting a jet addiction first, but I'll take it. Fueled by the power of Buff Out, I made my way through the wasteland bigger and badder than ever. However, I was still quite low level, and even the strongest chems didn't make me immune to this fucking insane combo this dude hit on me. Bitch, what the fuck? Got his ass on the revive though. How's karma taste, fuck? In this way, I continued through the world on my chem-induced rampage, destroying the majority of low-level enemies in my path and shooting up to deal with anything scarier. Eventually stopping back at Sanctuary, I built myself a cozy little cottage where I could advertise my drug use to the world, and of course, where I supported the drug use of others. Mama Murphy, you're my hero. But honestly, most of my early playthrough involved a lot of scavenging for chems and facing the consequences of my low level. Like when I got Rocket 69'd by a dude with a missile launcher at like level 5. Though, again, I got him on the revive, and developed a jet addiction. Nice. With 2 addictions in tow, I was riding high, literally, splatting enemies left and right and even defeating my second Deathclaw. It was at this point that I really started to get into the melee build, and crafted my first weapon. Bad habit. Ooh, isn't she beautiful? After testing out my baby in the locals, I picked up my next addiction while exploring. Now, at this point, I had still been playing as a permanently chemmed character, basically where I would stop and slam down a chem every time I ran out. But as I'm sure you could imagine, it was slowing down combat in a way that wasn't really enjoyable for me. That's when I realized, that's a dumb idea, and it would be way funnier and more interesting to go for every addiction instead. Here's the pivot I was talking about. So I looked at the Fallout addiction chart, crossed off what I already had, and wow, I have a lot to go. And I haven't even heard of half of these drugs before, so I had no idea where the fuck to even get them. But with this new goal in mind, I at least knew where to start. Step 1 was absolutely getting rid of that chem-resistant perk, so I popped a cheeky little respec and it's like it never even happened. This was immediately worth it, as I almost instantly afterward picked up an alcohol addiction. Talk about the life of the party. I was still enjoying my newfound addiction when I happened upon a new melee weapon out in the world, with better damage and swing time than Bad Habit. Let's test her out and, oh baby, you're coming home with me. Making my way over to Good Neighbor, I managed to pick up another addiction immediately after buying more chems. Dude, this guy is the good stuff, what the? In fact, the stuff was so good that I managed to pick up Magnolia in the third rail immediately afterwards. Call that the Addict Riz. Unfortunately, at this point, I was running out of easy-to-find chems, which means I would have to take things into my own hands.
And make my own.
So I started taking on side missions around Good Neighbor to grind out the perk points I needed to make my chem station a reality. And while I was exploring some tunnels with Bobby, I found this. Holy shit. I know, I'm supposed to be a strength build, but I could at least test her out. Holy shit. Using my junkie pistol, I eventually slaughtered enough people to build and learn how to use a chem station, where I started working on my first crafted chem addiction, Overdrive. It was only a matter of time before I picked up the addiction for it, and picked up another suitor with my Addict Riz. Unfortunately, the other crafted chem, Fury, required much rarer ingredients, so I ventured out into the world once again on the hunt. Along the way, I did a few more missions and slowly cleared the world of its antifreeze bottles before crafting Fury and nabbing the addiction. This chem shit is easy. Or is it? Though I've been kind of on a roll with picking up addictions, at this point the chem hunt sort of dried up. Everywhere I went, I was only finding common chems, and while I'm sure they made my character excited, they weren't what I needed for the challenge. The doctors wouldn't help me. Not only were they only selling common chems, when they did my physical, they didn't think anything was wrong with me. Respectfully, sir, are you fucking blind? Eventually, I grew tired of coming up short, so I looked up some hard spawns in the chems I had left. Funnily enough, Concord, the very first town of the game, was hiding a gem of a find in a little unmarked building labeled the Concord Speakeasy. There, I found Day Tripper and XL, two chems I hadn't even heard of before this playthrough. I quickly burned through my stash, and shortly after, picked up addictions for both of them. At this point, I only had 3 addictions left, and only 2 chems I had left to find, Calmex and Daddio. Unfortunately, both of these didn't have hard spawns out in the world, meaning the only way I was going to find them is if I got lucky. Very, very lucky. So, I rolled the dice and went out into the wasteland. It was at this point I entered by far the longest section of my playthrough, where I, just kind of wandered. Though I looked high and low for any chems I could find, I mostly just ended up, playing the game. I found some cool robots, then I exploded the cool robots. I got Curie a new body, then immediately set her to work making me more drugs, damn it! I found yet another Deathclaw with the help of my second robot army, and things got serious between Hancock and I. That's that Addict Riz! At some point, I also started flaunting a super sledge that I picked up somewhere. Though at this point, all the addictions nerfing my strength were really starting to slow me down. Eventually running out of side bullshit to do, I even started working on the main story that I was only pretending to care about, which backfired a few times when I skipped one too many dialogue. Oops. Sorry, Dad. Son. It was around this point that I finally got tired of the melee build, and given how low my strength was, I realized I really should have abandoned it a long time ago. I've got that pistol that I never used. I wonder how much damage it does now. Oh. With my junkie pistol and frankly disgustingly large stockpile of common drugs in tow, I began making fast work of the main story, which even despite the insane nerf put on me by addictions, I was really enjoying. But unfortunately, there was still no sign of the last drugs I needed to complete my list of addictions. Though I really did my best to find them in the wild, after hours and hours of searching, I could only find one Calmex naturally in the world. So, eventually, I had to make a hard choice. Though I was really hoping to find the last chems I needed naturally, the truth was, I knew how easy it was to find them unnaturally. See, all Fallout games come with the ability to input console commands, which can let you do or get pretty much anything in the game with the click of a button. And as much as I would have loved to wander around aimlessly for another 40 hours looking for the last chems I needed, I really didn't want to. So I teleported to the dev's secret cock smoke room and grabbed all I could carry. From there, it was just a matter of spamming until I had my last 2 chem addictions. Then my true final addiction came moments later, when I flipped my game to survival and ate my son, and got the dark craving. Which, what the fuck? There's a reason I put this out for last, because what the fuck? From there, it was just a quick jaunt up to the roof, and I was finally done. I had beaten Fallout 4 with every single addiction. Here's my final list for proof, and my final stats. All I had to do was press the button, and everything faded to black. Overall, I had a lot of fun with this playthrough. It was cool to explore systems like addiction and chem station crafting that I didn't really get a chance to mess with on my first playthrough. Plus, chems made combat way more interesting, at least until those withdrawal symptoms kicked in. What do you know? Drugs are fun at first, and then they really fuck you up. Just like in real life. Seriously, don't do drugs, don't even try. Although I'm a little sad I didn't manage to find the last 2 chems and addictions I needed naturally, I'm happy I did this challenge, and would definitely recommend it to anyone looking to add a little spice to a playthrough. Just learn from my mistakes. Don't make a melee build, seriously. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you making it to the end of the video. I've got more challenges and game stuff on my channel if you want to check them out, and I stream on Twitch Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays if you want to see me do stuff like this live. But that's all for me for now. This is Fire signing off, and I'll see you around. Bye!